I'm Joseph Guggenheim, 1972 Feinberg graduate, and today I'd like to talk about James Gamble Rogers, the original designer of the Chicago campus and architect for many of the original buildings. I have with me today Dan Schwartzlos from the Alumni Relations Department, who is going to help me with the slides. Next slide, please. Rogers was the architect for many of the buildings on the Northwestern campus, the original buildings, including the Ward Building, Thorne Hall, Abbott Hall, Wieboldt Hall, and Levy Hall. In Evanston, he also designed many of the buildings on the campus. Next. The president of the university in the early 1900s was Walter Dill Scott. He started a campaign for Greater Northwestern. The school purchased 9 acres of swampy land, landfill in the Streeterville area for the new school. James Gamble Rogers was commissioned to plan a master plan for the new campus. Next. The new campus was going to accommodate and draw together all the specialized schools around Chicago: medical, dental, pharmacy, and commerce school, which became the business school. The plans were to include a high tower for the medical building with lower buildings around it. Superior Street was going to dead end at Fairbanks Court. Next. He proposed several low buildings with a crescendo to the tower building, which was the Ward Building, then lower buildings toward Lakeshore Drive. There was another proposal from the architectural firm of Halliburtt and Root. They proposed a series of quadrangles surrounded by pitched roofs and towers reminiscent of the old English universities, similar to the plan at the University of Chicago. However, the Rogers plan was chosen over the Halliburtt and Root plan. Next. Rogers was born in a small town in Kentucky. When he was very young, the family moved to the Buena Park area of Chicago, the area bounded by the lake, Montrose, 4400 North, and Irving Park Road at 4000 North. He had a neighbor named William Mundy who helped him get a job later. Rogers enrolled in Yale in 1885. He befriended one of his classmates, Edward Harkness. Harkness's father was Stephen Harkness, who at the time was the 6th wealthiest man in the United States. He was a partner of John D. Rockefeller of Standard Oil. Rogers went to Europe as a representative of the Yale baseball team, sponsored by the sporting goods company A.J. Spalding, to introduce Europeans to the sport of baseball. Next. Early in his career, Rogers was befriended by his neighbor Mundy, who arranged for him to get a job with William LeBaron Jenney, a pioneer in the building of early skyscrapers. He later joined Burnham and Root, and then he enrolled in Paris at the École des Beaux-Arts in 1892. He returned to the Chicago area and married Anne Day from Lake Forest. Day's mother was related to the Cyrus McCormick family. They were married in 1901. Rogers was a member of the group called the Chicago 18. This was a group of collegial architects who met regularly to discuss things like trends in American architecture. They were not competitive. They were a very amicable group. They included Frank Lloyd Wright, Howard Van Doren Shaw, other famous architects, as well as Rogers. Rogers formed the firm of Rogers and Rogers in New York in 1906 and moved to Manhattan. Next. Early in his career, Rogers designed many private homes. He built this home, which is now still standing at 1340 North State Parkway, just north of Feinberg. He built it for a prominent Chicago surgeon, George Swift Isham, in 1899. This later became Hugh Hefner's Playboy Mansion in 1959. It is now a group of luxurious condos. Next. Rogers also designed this home for Albert M. Day in 1894, located on a bluff in Lake Forest just north of Fort Sheridan. Albert Day was president of the Chicago Stock Exchange. Several Chicagoans tried to get Day to run for mayor of Chicago, but he declined the offer. Day must have liked the house because he allowed his daughter Anne to marry the architect Rogers in 1901. This house is still standing. Next. He designed this home at 121 North Sheridan Road in 1906. It was owned by Estelle Walgreen, heiress to the pharmacy fortune. This house is also still standing. Next. There are two more Lake Forest homes he designed. One was the Albert B. Dyche Mansion. Dyche was the developer of the duplicating machine. This was a house at an estate he called Westmoreland, and this picture does not really do it justice. The entryway with the columns around it was a semicircle, and the two wings coming off to the side were at 90-degree angles to each other. It is not flat as the picture makes it look. This house was demolished in order to build the original Lake Forest Hospital and later the new Lake Forest Hospital, part of the Northwestern system. The William Peter home is still standing, built in 1926. Peter was a railroad tycoon. Next. Rogers designed 6 or 8 Lake Forest homes, a couple of Kenilworth homes, one in Winnetka and one in Highland Park, but I could not find them, so I believe they were probably been demolished. Rogers designed a home for one of the wealthiest couples in America. Edith Rockefeller, the daughter of John D. Rockefeller, married Harold McCormick, the son of Cyrus McCormick, the developer of the agricultural reamer, in 1895. Frank Lloyd Wright, as well as James Gamble Rogers, submitted proposals for a home in Lake Forest, but the couple rejected them in favor of an Italian villa-style house, which they thought was more consistent with Lake Forest architecture. Next. Rogers designed at least one church. He built this one in this southern area of Chicago, near the University of Chicago in 1906. It was largely funded by John D. Rockefeller, who also funded several buildings in the University of Chicago campus. It is now a leading center of progressive Protestant Christianity and has a beautiful stained glass window in the front. Next. This is a picture of the window from the inside. The stained glass is by Tiffany and Connick. Next. Rogers befriended Edward Harkness, one of his classmates at Yale, the wealthy family that I mentioned earlier. Edward and Mary lived in Manhattan on 75th Street, and Rogers designed this house for them in 1908. They were very wealthy, yet very philanthropic family. It is known that they donated $129 million to charities, which would be approximately $3 billion today. But they were a very private couple and did not want a lot of their philanthropy discovered. So we are not sure exactly how much philanthropy they actually did. They were very private, and they wanted the windows of their house built above street level so that people could not see in. Next. The house still stands in all its exterior glory on 75th Street. It is now the home of Commonwealth Fund, which is a philanthropy organization, and still has beautiful interiors. Next. Rogers also designed the Elm Tree House in Williamstown, Massachusetts. This was the home of Ezra Parmalee Prentice and wife Alta. If that name Prentice sounds familiar, it's because this couple was the grandparents of Abra Prentice Wilkin, who donated the money for Prentice Women's Hospitals at Feinberg. Parmalee was a descendant of some of the founders of Yale University. He was a Harvard law graduate, practiced some law to help the Rockefeller family, his in-laws, but he was also very interested in the food supply and was concerned about it as the world population grew. And he tried to develop better strains of livestock and chickens to improve the world's food supply. Next. Rogers designed many buildings for his alma mater at Yale between 1921 and 34. The style was called Collegiate Gothic. It was criticized by many because it had stone cladding, which was actually just placed over a steel frame instead of being an entirely stone building. A lot of the buildings were generously funded by the Harkness family. And sometimes when the Harkness family was doing philanthropy and negotiating for a building, they specified that they would give the money if and only if Rogers was the architect. This shows the Harkness Tower and the Sterling Library at Yale, done in the collegiate Gothic style. Next. Rogers submitted a design for the competition for the Tribune Tower on North Michigan Avenue in 1922. This is his submission on the left, which was rejected. The final design, which was accepted and was built opening in 1925, was by Howells and Hood. Next. Rogers worked on the Chicago campus from 1926 until 1940. He designed the Ward building, which was opened in 1926, given by Elizabeth Cobb Ward in memory of her husband, Montgomery Ward. The first 7 floors were medical and the next 6 floors were dental. It was done in the University Gothic style and was considered the first skyscraper medical center in the United States. Next. This is a picture of the Ward building, and on the left you see a picture of the Magdalen College at Oxford. This was visited by Rogers' principal designer, Ballantyne, just before the Ward building was designed. So if you notice a resemblance, it may be because this building inspired Rogers' organization. Next. He also built in the adjacent neighborhood the Wieboldt Hall and Levy Meyer Hall. Next. Thorne Hall was built in 1932. George Thorne and Montgomery Ward were business partners and brothers-in-law. The 2 wives were sisters, the Cobb sisters. Mrs. Thorne wanted the Thorne Hall to be built next to the Ward building because she said that her husband and Mr. Ward worked side by side for many years, so she wanted the building side by side. But that was not possible, so they're nearby. The building was demolished in 1983 to build the Wieboldt building. Those of us who graduated before '83 may remember the solid oak doors and the lavish stained glass windows. When the building was built, it had 2 organs and 2 auditoriums and a kitchen. The building was the birthplace of rehabilitation engineering for prosthetics in 1945, where federal funding was granted for the development of prosthetic limbs. Next. Abbott Hall was opened in 1940, the last building designed by Rogers on the Chicago campus. It was done in a style called stripped down modernism. And you can see the resemblance of the windows of Abbott Hall on the left to this landmark building in Rome. Next. Rogers was appointed to be the campus architect for the Evanston campus in 1922. Next. He designed Dyche Stadium, which is now Ryan Field, which was said to resemble great Roman baths surrounded by medieval towers. Next. This is the iconic Deering Library as seen from Sheridan Road. You can see how it resembles the chapel at King's College, very similar buildings. So it's thought that the inspiration for the building came from this King's College chapel. Next. He designed Columbia Physicians and Surgeons Medical Center in 1928, and this was the second skyscraper medical school. Next. Rogers died in 1947 and lived in Manhattan. He is buried in the Bronx, although he did keep some ties with Lake Forest because that's where his in-laws lived. Next. So my question for you is, if James Gamble Rogers designed the plans for the downtown Northwestern campus in many of the buildings. Why do we call it the Chicago campus instead of Mr. Rogers' neighborhood? Next. Thank you, and I look forward to getting together next month. In the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay connected.